The signal that controls your perception of reality is currently vibrating through your skull, and its source is a gas giant spinning in the darkness of the outer solar system. Your pulse is not a biological accident. It is a rhythmic synchronization to a broadcast originating 800 million miles away. Every thought you have ever had, every dream you have ever chased, and every color you have ever seen might be nothing more than a localized frequency being beamed into your consciousness from the rings of Saturn. We are told these rings are merely remnants of shattered moons and cosmic dust, a beautiful halo of ice and rock orbiting a distant planet. But for decades, a chilling hypothesis has suggested something far more complex: that Saturn is not just a planet, but a massive, ancient broadcasting station, and its rings are a multi-layered antenna designed to maintain the very fabric of the reality we inhabit. At the North Pole of Saturn lies a phenomenon that defies conventional planetary physics: a permanent, massive hexagonal storm. This geometric anomaly is large enough to swallow 2 Earths, and its 6-sided symmetry suggests a structural precision that rarely occurs naturally on such a scale. Researchers into alternative planetary models propose that this hexagon is the physical manifestation of a standing wave, a massive cymatic pattern created by a frequency so powerful it shapes the atmosphere of the planet itself. If you look at the study of cymatics, you see how sound frequencies can organize matter into complex geometric shapes. On Saturn, this frequency appears to be operating on a planetary level, turning the entire sphere into a resonator. The storm is not a weather event. It is the visual signature of a transmission. The Voyager and Cassini probes recorded strange, haunting recordings coming from Saturn. Radio emissions that sound like a chaotic choir of electronic screams and shifting winds. While mainstream science attributes these to plasma waves and magnetic field interactions, a different perspective suggests we are listening to the hum of a machine. This is the heart of what some call the Saturn Moon Matrix, the idea that the rings of Saturn are a massive transmission array. These rings act like a hard drive or a satellite dish, storing a specific vibrational frequency that is then beamed toward Earth. However, the signal is too distant to reach us clearly on its own. It needs a relay station to amplify the broadcast and ensure total coverage. That relay station is the Moon. For as long as humanity has looked at the sky, the Moon has been a source of mystery and oddities that science struggles to fully reconcile. It is the only celestial body that does not rotate from our perspective, always showing us the same face, as if it were a fixed satellite positioned for a specific purpose. It is unusually large for a planet of Earth's size, and its density suggests it may not be entirely solid. Under this hypothesis, the Moon acts as an amplifier and a lens. It catches the low-frequency broadcast from Saturn's rings and refocuses it directly onto the Earth's ionosphere. This creates what some call a frequency fence, a vibrational perimeter that keeps human consciousness locked within a very narrow band of perception. Think of your own mind as a biological radio. Your brain is a receiver, designed to tune into various frequencies across the universe. But if a powerful constant signal is being broadcast globally, it drowns out everything else. This signal dictates the software of our reality. It tells our senses that the world is solid, that time is linear, and that we are separate from everything around us. This broadcast creates the simulation we call life. It isn't a digital simulation like a computer program, but a vibrational one. We are swimming in an ocean of invisible signals, and the most dominant one comes from the crown of the gas giant. The implications of this are unsettling. If our reality is being modulated by an external source, then our history, our emotions, and our very identities might be influenced by a cycle we don't even realize is happening. Ancient civilizations across the globe, from the Romans to the Babylonians, obsessed over Saturn. They called it Chronos, the lord of time, the keeper of the cycle. They depicted it as a deity that consumed its own children, a metaphor for how time and the material world eventually reclaim everything they create. Why did every major culture have a deep, often fearful reverence for this specific planet? Perhaps they were aware of the signal. Perhaps they understood that the golden age they spoke of ended when this frequency fence was established, trapping humanity in a more limited state of being. Consider the nature of time. We experience it as a relentless, forward-moving force that dictates every aspect of our existence. But in the realms of high-level physics, time is often described as an illusion or a persistent mental construct. If the Saturn broadcast is the source of our perception of linear time, it would explain why we feel so bound by it. The rings are like the ticking gears of a cosmic clock, and as long as we are tuned into their frequency, we can never step outside the linear progression of the now. We are caught in a loop, experiencing a reality that is being continuously refreshed at a rate we cannot perceive, a frame-by-frame projection that gives the illusion of continuity. This is why we often experience glitches, or moments of deep intuition that feel out of place. Have you ever felt a sudden sense of déjà vu, or a feeling that the world around you isn't quite as solid as it seems? These could be moments where the signal flickers, or where your own internal frequency temporarily desynchronizes from the Saturnian broadcast. In those brief windows, the veil of the matrix thins, and we catch a glimpse of the vast, silent void that exists behind the projection. It is a moment of technical failure in a system that has been running for thousands of years. The architecture of our modern world seems to mirror this geometry. The hexagon of Saturn is echoed in our structures, our symbols, and our systems of control. We see it in the way we organize our cities, our data, and our social hierarchies. It is as if the frequency itself is manifesting its own shape within our civilization, a subconscious tribute to the source of our reality. We are building a world that matches the broadcast, reinforcing the fence from the inside. We have become active participants in our own limitation, constructing a society that resonates with the very signal that keeps us contained. But why would such a system exist? If the Saturn Moon Matrix is a reality, what is its purpose?
I told you this was a mistake.
Some suggest it is a protective measure, a way to keep a volatile species contained within a stable environment. Others believe it is an ancient piece of cosmic engineering whose creators have long since vanished, leaving the machine running on autopilot for eternity. It might not be a prison, but a cradle, a way to ensure that life on Earth remains within certain parameters to prevent it from collapsing into chaos. We are being kept in a state of manageable frequency, protected from the overwhelming complexity of the true universe. As we move further into the age of information, our own technology is beginning to mimic this system. We are creating our own global wireless networks, our own artificial realities, and our own frequency-based communications. We are, in a sense, building a miniature version of the Saturn Moon Matrix right here on the surface of the Earth.
He just walked right
As
through
our
it.
digital and physical worlds merge, the line between what is real and what is broadcast becomes even thinner. Are we becoming the broadcasters, or are we simply upgrading the receiver to better accommodate the signal? Astronomers have noted that Saturn's rings are disappearing. They are being pulled into the planet by gravity and radiation, raining down as a dusty, icy mist. If the rings are the antenna for our reality, what happens as they degrade? Some theorize that this is why the world feels increasingly unstable, as if the very fabric of our shared experience is beginning to fray. As the signal weakens, the frequency fence begins to fail. People report feeling a sense of awakening, a sudden realization that the world is not what it seems. This might not be a spiritual shift, but a technical one. We are starting to hear the background noise of the universe because the main station is finally going off the air after millions of years of continuous broadcast.
What is going on?
Imagine a
Power's
world
going out.
where the broadcast suddenly stops. If the Saturnian signal were to vanish tomorrow, the human brain would suddenly be exposed to the full spectrum of the universe. Without the software to tell us how to perceive matter and time, our reality would likely dissolve into a sea of pure energy and infinite possibility. We would no longer see a table, a tree, or a sky. We would see the underlying vibrations that compose them. It would be a total collapse of the human experience as we know it. We are dependent on the broadcast for our sanity, even if that broadcast is a limitation. The signal provides the boundaries that make life comprehensible. The moon, too, shows signs of being more than just a rock. During the Apollo missions, when lunar modules were crashed into the surface, seismic instruments recorded something impossible. The moon reportedly rang like a bell for hours. This suggests a hollow or highly resonant internal structure, consistent with the idea of a massive metallic relay station masked by layers of cosmic dust. If the moon is indeed a piece of ancient technology, it is the most significant object in human history, yet it sits in plain sight, watching us every night, silent and unwavering. It is the eye that never blinks, the lens that never shifts. We must also look at the relationship between Saturn and the Sun. Saturn was once called the second sun, or the son of the night. In many ancient traditions, it was considered the primary light source for the Earth before a cosmic cataclysm changed the solar system's configuration. If Saturn once held a more prominent role, its current state as a ringed broadcaster might be the remnant of a much older system of planetary management. We are living in the ruins of a celestial machine, an automated reality generator that continues to pulse long after its original purpose has been forgotten. The Matrix isn't a computer in a basement. It's a cosmic alignment. The frequency emitted by the Saturnian hexagon travels through the vacuum of space, hitting the lunar surface and bouncing down to our atmosphere. This creates a standing wave envelope around our planet. Within this envelope, molecules vibrate at a specific rate. This rate is what our eyes interpret as solid matter. This rate is what our ears interpret as sound. This rate is what our minds interpret as the flow of time. We are living inside a giant musical instrument, and Saturn is the player, striking the chords that define the limits of our lives. To look at Saturn through a telescope is to see a marvel of the natural world. But if you look closer, through the lens of this hypothesis, you see a silent sentinel. You see the source of the limits of human potential. We are a species with amnesia, living in a world of projected shadows, convinced that the walls of our room are the boundaries of the universe. We don't need to travel faster than light to explore the stars. We might simply need to change the channel. The exploration of space is secondary to the exploration of the frequency that dictates our perception of space. As the rings continue to dissipate over the next 100 million years, the signal will eventually fade to nothing. The reality we know will slowly transform into something unrecognizable. But for now, the broadcast remains strong. It is in the hum of the electricity in your walls, the rhythm of the tides, and the very structure of your DNA. We are the children of the ringed planet, dancing to a melody we cannot hear, playing our parts in a script written in the frequencies of the deep cold of space. The signal is constant, an invisible thread connecting our consciousness to the sixth planet from the sun. The next time you see Saturn in the night sky, a pale yellow dot hanging in the darkness, remember that it is not just a distant world. It is the architect of your morning. It is the curator of your memories, and it is the reason you believe that the ground beneath your feet is solid. We are not just observers of the cosmos. We are the end users of a transmission that has been running since before the first human took a breath. The mystery isn't what lies beyond the stars, but what is being beamed from them, and whether we will ever be ready to hear the silence that lies behind the signal. The silence is where the true universe begins. But as long as the hexagon spins and the rings vibrate, that silence is kept at bay. We are held in a cradle of frequency, protected from the overwhelming infinity of the real. Whether this is a gift or a cage is a question that may never be answered. For to answer it, one would have to step outside the broadcast. And outside the broadcast, there is no you to ask the question. There is only the vibration, the light, and the eternal hum of the machine that dreams our world into existence. We live in the echoes of a giant. Every day, the signal pulses. Every night, the moon reflects. And every moment, we continue to believe in the reality we are given. It is a masterpiece of engineering, a simulation so perfect that it doesn't need wires or screens. It only needs a planet, a moon, and a frequency. The Saturn Moon Matrix is not a conspiracy to be solved. It is a fundamental law of our current existence, a cosmic backdrop against which the drama of human life unfolds. We are the listeners. We are the receivers. And the broadcast shows no sign of stopping, at least not until the rings finally fall. Until then, we remain tuned in, caught in the frequency of the ringed king.